After Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer caved to Republicans, allowing the spending bill to go through, blocking Democrats from their effort to force a government shutdown, things have gone from bad to worse for him as he has canceled his book tour, citing security concerns, but citing actually there would have been a bunch of protesters yelling at him from the left, from the Democratic Party at his events. And now Nancy Pelosi is clowning him for his failure to do his job. Let's roll the former House Speaker here.
Well, I'm concerned about the next time. I'm concerned about the future. What happened last week was last week. We're going into the future. And this morning, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer joined in this kind of an event in New York, where Hakeem said that he had confidence in Chuck Schumer. So we're to the next stage on this now. But your question and yours, it is about what comes next. I myself don't give away anything for nothing. And I think that's what happened the other day. We could have, in my view, perhaps gotten them to agree to a third way, which was a bipartisan CR for 4 weeks, in which we could have had bipartisan legislation to go forward. I'm an appropriator. Mr. Schiff is an appropriator and with the Appropriations Committee. They may not have agreed to it, but at least the public would have seen they're not agreeing to it.
The plan she laid out there, by the way, is precisely what Republicans did with Biden in a Democratic-controlled Congress in 2021. Democrats tried to do a partisan CR. Republicans said, no way, we're not participating in that, and they forced Democrats to do clean CR. So it's not a radical strategy that she's laying out there. Schumer has avoided politics and prose in other bookstores, but he hasn't avoided the cable circuit or the network circuit. Here he is on CBS.
In your own party, they're saying, look, it's time for you to go. They no longer trust your leadership. They want somebody else in there. What do you say about that?
Here's what I say.
In your own party saying
yes.
You've got to go.
Here's what I'm saying. I'm the best leader for the Senate. We have a lot of leaders. You know, when you don't have a president, there's not one leader of the party. There are lots of them. We have a lot of good people. But I am the best at keep winning Senate seats. I've done it in 2005. Just in 2020, no one thought we'd take back the Senate. Under my leadership, we took it. So we now are executing.
You're not going anywhere.
We have a great. We're moving forward. Hakeem and I have a plan.
Here he is on The View, also getting confronted.
And it gives me no pleasure to say this to you because we are friends, but I think you caved. I think you and 9 other Democrats caved. I don't think you showed the fight that this party needs right now because you're playing with by a rule book where the other party has thrown that rule book away.
True.
And so in my view, what you did really was in supporting that GOP partisan bill that Democrats had no input in, you cleared the way for Donald Trump and Elon Musk to gut Social Security, to gut Medicare, to gut Medicaid. Why did you lead Democratic senators to play by that book that the Republicans are not playing by?
Okay, first, I'd say, Sonny, no one wants to fight more than me, and no one fights more than me. You got to fight smart.
And then Jen Psaki, former Joe Biden White House spokesperson.
Experience is a good thing. It's important. But seniority and keeping people in charge simply because they have done it before should not be the only thing. Chuck Schumer was a hell of a majority leader in his prime. I grew up in politics when he was majority leader, when he was the aggressive senator, when he was the aggressive member of Congress who was dominating media coverage, arm-twisting Republicans and members of his own party, and raising an absolute boatload of money for Democrats. But he is not in his prime. The Republican Party is not the party of McCain or Romney or even George W. Bush. Feels to me like instead of just making tweaks to the margins of the message, which, by the way, is important too, maybe it's time to spend more time to throwing out the hard copy of the old playbook.
And a pretty fascinating exchange here with MSNBC's Chris Hayes.
All of those things you enumerated, which all sound like good politics to me, are the kinds of things that you'd be doing if Mitt Romney were president. That, like, there's this weird asymmetry right now, which is that they are acting in this totally new way.
Yes.
In which they are ambitiously trying to seize all power and create a presidential dictatorship in the United States of America. And the Democratic opposition is acting like, well, if we can get their approval rate down a few points, then what? What happens?
Well, what happens is, look, first, we get it way down. He's going to have much less. This worked in 2017. You say it didn't. Now it's a different government.
It's different, though.
Oh, it is
My
different.
God.
But health care, we beat them. Taxes, we beat them. And guess what we did? Guess what we did, Chris? We took back the House and won in the Senate, and then we were allowed to do all those good things. This is not the only tactic. We have to stand strong in certain instances and not give them the votes at all. But there are instances with this. The two work together.
First of all, I don't know what he means by we beat them on taxes.
I truly have no idea what he's talking about.
Trump pushed through his $6 trillion tax cut.
He might be talking about some small ball thing that we don't even remember.
Or maybe he means, because he doesn't care about policy, maybe he means they let them pass the tax cut bill and it hurt them in the midterms. And so we beat them.
If that's what he means,
on the
wow.
issue, on the issue of taxes.
If that's what he means, we're at another level of meta.
Yeah. So the reigning critique, as you saw from all of these different mainstream, center-left anchors, is that he's out of his prime, he's out of time. He's an anachronism. He was very good from 2005 to 2020. That's a really good run. He was good at raising money, and he kept Democrats competitive and in a Senate that is unbalanced
and unified,
and kept them unified.
Yep.
And it's unbalanced in the sense that smaller states, small rural states, get the same number of senators as like California and New York get. And so, you have to, as the Democratic Party, you have to, significantly overperform in order to just stay even. Mm-hmm. To his credit, 2006, 2008, 2020, great. But it's now 2025. And to me, the most revealing exchange there was with Hayes, where he said it worked in 2017. Mm-hmm. So, he's going back to his 2017 playbook. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know what did you think, and how are Republicans seeing this? How do they see his resistance?
That's a really smart point, because I think one of the central divides among Democrats last week was whether or not to recycle the 2017 playbook, which is you look like, from their perspective, to voters, the adults in the room. Do everything you can to look like the adults in the room, the people who are not the obstructionists, the people who are serious about doing business, so that you can frame Republicans as the unserious teenagers, to quote Alyssa Slotkin, kind of should probably quibble with my characterization there, but they're the ones who look like the wild rabble-rousers, that's another quote, actually. So I think that was the playbook in 2017, when Democrats were confident that Trump was going to sort of hoist himself by his own petard and would inevitably crumble and melt into like a puddle of just political inviability. And that never happened, partially because Democrats never bothered to muster a serious response. Their response was just, Trump is really bad. And now the question is, okay, so what are you proactively, what do you want? What do you want from Republicans in a spending bill? You weren't gonna get it, but the opportunity to shut down the government was an opportunity to fundamentally tell the American people what you think should be in the damn bill. What do you want Republicans to come to the table on? So to me, that's a great point, that it really was the split. Do we throw out the quote-unquote resistance playbook that really banks itself on just resisting, not being sort of proactive about that resistance? We talked about this last week. I think it was an insane failure to learn from the lessons of the Tea Party about shutdowns and about populism, and just a complete wasted opportunity for Democrats. But I think part of it is because Schumer, even invoking the year 2017 there, tells me they are still stuck on this idea of just being the smart resistance. And not even MSNBC is interested in that anymore.
Yeah. And it's certainly true that going into a government shutdown is not without risk.
Of course.
For Democrats.
Yeah.
Although, I've spoken to a ton of federal workers. Mm-hmm. You and I live here in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. A lot of the people we meet are federal workers. Mm-hmm. All of them wanted a government shutdown, even though it meant there was a possibility they might not even get back pay. You could imagine Republicans saying, no, our line in the sand is we're not even going to do back pay, even though we've done that for every shutdown before. Mm. And And despite the fact that there was so much uncertainty around what would happen in a government shutdown, all of them were like, do it. Just put up a fight. Because if the second he passed that CR through the Senate, that night, Trump put forward the plans for this, massive reduction in force, put out memos saying, it's time to absolutely, completely gut the federal government to the greatest extent possible by the law. And the law that they had just passed made it that much easier for Trump to accomplish, because it included some provisions that would allow them to sequester even more money, and because people like Russ Vought were telegraphing, we don't see this spending figure as a mandate. We see it as a ceiling. We're not going to spend this, and we're going to use the authority that you grant us through this CR to destroy the administrative state. And they did it, and Democrats did it anyway. And now the whatever is coming at the federal government from Trump in the next couple of weeks, I think is going to be very, very, very bad for federal workers. Now, maybe people will, maybe you love it as a member of the public, but from the perspective of federal workers who really do believe that the federal government should work, they think it's going to destroy all of these different agencies that do have actual roles to play in a functioning government, a functioning public. And now they've just kind of ceded all that until September to Trump.
Yeah. Where they could have had a fairly easy, I don't mean this pejoratively, but a political prop to trot out from now until then. And I actually think they would have gotten something small from Republicans out of this. And small victories are victories.
You just get a clean CR, even.
Even that. And Schumer is out now saying, I don't know if you saw him say this, Republicans were telling him it would have been a 6 to 9 month shutdown. What the hell are you talking about, bro? I don't know what Republicans are genuinely telling you that, but they're messing with you, Chuck. It would have been a Saturday, Sunday shutdown because you could have controlled that. What are you talking about? A weekend shutdown was like the lowest risk. It was absolutely a risk, there's no question about it, but for risk-averse Democrats, this was like the warmest pool for them to dip their toe into, being like actually a party of taking risks. And they couldn't even do that. Even when you have MSNBC and Nancy Pelosi, Jen Psaki, all of these people saying maybe our strategy needs an update, maybe we actually need to give the base a shot in the arm here, that we can rally hundreds of people at protests over the weekend. We can tell people that we fought. We can get some small concession. They had leverage. They didn't have a lot of leverage, but they had a tiny amount of leverage, and you should use your tiny amount of leverage when you have it. Otherwise, you're going to make your base more and more angry, and that's Brendan Buck.
A lot of them might check out.
Yeah, we were talking about this. Brendan Buck, who is a Paul Ryan strategist, wrote an op-ed for the New York Times agreeing with Chuck Schumer because he was saying that was the successful. He said Republicans actually ended up giving too much to the Tea Party. Like Republican leadership, Paul Ryan, John Boehner, were too nice, too indulgent of the Tea Party. And it's like, again, no, the reason you ended up with Trump is because you guys were trying to block the Tea Party, which was representative of your own party's base, your voters. It reminded me of the Sam Gadaldig research paper that we covered about a year ago, where he showed the people from the poorest districts are represented by the Freedom Caucus, and they're represented by Justice Democrats. And that's bipartisan. And these are the people that Washington is trying to treat as unserious, quote, rabble-rousers, is how Brendan Buck refers to them. So if you want to, if you want to judge the wisdom of the Schumer strategy, look no further than the fact that establishment Republicans who now have zero influence in Washington are saying he made the right move.
Right.
Stupid.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to that calculation that some establishment figures in both parties make. Would they rather win but empower their left or right flank?
Yeah.
Or would they rather lose and disempower them? And for Brendan Buck, he'd have rather lost, but maintained the cohesion of the kind of Chamber of Commerce wing of the Republican Party.
Yep.
Maybe Schumer's trying to make that calculation. On the other hand, Schumer's also taking the bullets for his entire caucus. It's not as if Schumer pushed his caucus to cave. Like, they all wanted to cave. No, I mean, not all of them. A lot of them wanted to fight. More than 10 wanted to cave. And more than voted to cave wanted to cave. And so Schumer here is being a kind of good soldier for his own, cowardly caucus that wants to cave but wants to pretend that they don't. Now they can be mad, and then they pretend to be mad at Schumer over it.
Democrats should be furious with the way leadership has handled the entire Trump era, and I feel like that hasn't broken into the main discourse until now.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, they have no idea what's coming for them.
They lost to this guy so badly.
But Republicans lost to him badly first, and it was a years-long lesson in what not to do with your party's populists for Democrats. It was handed to them on a silver platter by the way Republican leadership treated mostly not just Trump, but Trump's voters, because Trump's voters took that as a message that they were being rejected. It's the same thing with AOC's voters now. It's the same thing with the voters of people who were like, you're doing nothing? You're laying down? What are you doing? They take that as an affront to them, and they're not wrong to do it. So good luck with that, Chuck Schumer.
Yeah. All right, up next, Donald Trump fired both Democratic members of the Federal Trade Commission. One of them, Alvaro Bedoya, joins us next. Stick around for that.
Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.